So guys, in this part we are going to make a new script for our enemies now. So now here at our hierarchy, I'm going to right click, create an empty object, going to call it enemy controller. So then I'm going to our script, create a new C# script, call it enemy controller. So after it compiled, then I'm going to attach that script to our enemy controller. So now let's open our enemy controller. So now first we are going to make this script as a singleton, which make us easy to access to it from other scripts. So here we are going to write public static, and then we are going to write the name of our script. Here you can write whatever you want, but normally we're using the instance. So now then we are going to make an awake function. Awake is a start before the awake is start before our start function. That means it's going to call before our start function. And here we are going to say instance is a call to this object. And what is going to help us, it's going to give us this, we can get access to this script. So when I'm going to save it, I'm going to our enemy. Here, for example, I just need to write enemy controller dot instance and then dot the name of that function that we want. So it is really give us easy way to get access to a script. But the problem that we have is that you just allowed to have one in your game. So you cannot have a two of this instance in your game. For example, you cannot use it in your enemy because you have more than one enemy. That's why if you use more than, you will cause errors. So, but because the enemy controller is just going to control this script, so we can have just one of it in our game. So now from here, we want to get access to our enemy script as well, because we cannot make this script singleton. So here in the top, I'm going to write public enemy script, and here I'm going to say current enemy. So this is another way that we can get access to another script. And because I didn't want it to do the same things for our enemies, so we have here enemy control the enemy, and I want so we could actually do that, but it's we need to write extra code, and we didn't want that because we have just one script, so we can use the instance as in our enemy controller, but in our enemy we can get access to it by just writing public enemy current enemy. Now we need the prefab of our enemies, so public, because there are game object, we are going to public game object, then use array, the list of our enemies, going to call it an enemies. So now when I'm going to save it, let's go back to the game. Here, as you see, we have the current enemy, and here we have the index. So here the enemies, for example, here we can go to our prefab, put the enemy one in our, then second enemy here as well. So we have now two enemies. So index 0, that's the index 0, index number 1. So now let's go back, So now we don't need a start and update. I can delete them. Here instead, I'm going to write public void. We are going to write a new function for creating the new enemy. I can call it create enemy. So now inside we are going to say game object. We can say new enemy is equal to enemies, so array, and inside, because I want to randomly choose one of our enemies, I'm going to say random.range. Now here minimum, I'm going to take it as a 0, and the maximum will be our enemies dot length. That is the length of our array. So that means here we are going to pick one of our enemies randomly from the index 0 and index the maximum, the size of our array. And then after that, we want to instantiate that enemy that we picked. So here we can say game object. So enemy object is equal to instantiate. Instantiate means when we have something prefab, we can create from the prefab to our game. And what we want to create is our new enemy. And where we want here, we need, as you see here, transform the parent. So in the top, we need to make a new function. So public transform canvas. Now here we are going to use the canvas because we want to parent it with our canvas. So now, as you see here, we create a current enemy. We want to say what is our current enemy is equal to enemy object dot get component, and the component is the enemy script. So now we are going to make a new function. Going to call that function the dead enemy. What should happen when our enemy is going to die? So when the enemy is going to die, we want to destroy it first. So destroy the current enemy. So first I need to, here we need to give a parameter. The parameter is game object, and I'm going to call that parameter enemy. So now I want to get that game object here, destroy, and that game object, so that enemy. Then we want to create a new one. So we can call this function here. So now let's save it, and going back to our enemy, here wherever we are going to call that die function, we want to say enemy controller dot instance dot this enemy. And as you see, when I want to do that, we get error because now with this enemy, here we have game object, the enemy. So it's searching for the parameter to pass the information, and the information is passing to the game object. So here we need to just write game object. So now let's save this script as well, the post script, and then let's go back to the game. So here is searching for the canvas, and the canvas we need just bring our canvas there. So now when I'm play, you can see that when we are going to kill the enemy, we are going to instantiate another one. Here we have the current enemy here. As you see now, it's going to be number 1. Now it's becoming the enemy number 2. So it's going to randomly change the enemy. So now let's go back to the enemy controller. So guys, now I comment them. So if you want to write them, write the comments so to understand it better. So here it is. So now in the next part, we are going to get the money, get the gold from our enemy when we are going to kill them. See you in the next video.